So this stage are yours, and if you get stuck, I will help you.
Thanks
along
a
the
lot.
journey.
I trust you. Awesome. Yeah, we got the picture up there. Cool. First of all, a warm welcome to all of you. I see a few familiar faces and some not familiar yet. Anyway, very warm welcome to this talk about the Fearless organization together with me and Roger. I like to emphasize a little bit that this is a talk and not like a lecture or a seminar. And what I want to say with that is that we really encourage you to interact. I mean, we probably have a few things to say here, something we can catch up, but please do interrupt and ask questions. Meanwhile, that will just make this really like dynamic and probably a lot better than just listening to the two of us.
And when you ask questions, I will throw this thing at you, and we speak in this because this is a mic. So I will.
So it's basically at your own risk. Looks pretty soft though. Anyway, I think we've all at some point found ourselves being kind of blown away by these brave and seemingly fearless people. You see a few of them here behind me. It's impressive and exciting, I think, with these people. However, I don't believe that you need a hero to be fearless. In fact, I do believe that a hero culture can do quite the opposite to a workplace. At least when you're working with long-lasting and high-performing teams that want to do projects together over and over again. Even more importantly, even having fun together. I am Anders Bauer. I work as a Scrum Master at GetAccept. At GetAccept, we live the dream of a truly collaborative workplace, and we do that by being curious, asking a lot of questions, learning from each other. I think really important, daring to challenge what seems wrong. Celebrating together, having fun together. I'm super excited about being here. This is a vast topic. Very humbled to be here together with you, Roger. I have never spoken about this subject with anyone before without learning a lot of new stuff around this, about fearless organizations or psychological safety. Very, very interesting topic. So, what do you got up your sleeve, Roger?
So first of all, my name is Rory Karlsson, and I'm passionate about making teams successful at one agency. I work as an Agile coach, or Scrum Master, or you set the title, something like that. And I'm very humbled to be here with you, Anders, doing this talk. So why am I here? Why am I doing this? Well, several years ago, I stepped outside of my comfort zone. I really did. I take a leap outside and try something I wanted to do, but I haven't done it before. So the question come up. We have a training for 8 salespeople, and they need to learn project management and agile work. And the trainer is double booked, so they can't make it. Can anyone do it? And I was just, I think I can do it. I have never done it. I know material, but I think I can do it. Because I think I have that much knowledge, so I can summarize it. And then we start talking about that, and we start talking about all the details and what is expectations and so on, and what kind of people it is and so on. And I just make a simple mind map. I didn't make a deck of slides or anything. I just took a piece of paper, draw my mind map. And I did that like 20 times. So I was just training to draw this mind map, like really often. I had 1 week, then I was going. Because this training was in London. They said that 2 days before. We have booked a ticket for you, it's in London. Okay, good. So I went to London, and I had my piece of paper, and I met all these people. And when I was at the plane, I started thinking, what can go wrong here? How can I fail this? And I couldn't come up with anything. I was probably stupid, but I just couldn't come up with anything. Because, you know, there was no one else doing this. I was the only one in that room. I wasn't a global expert in project management and agile way of working, but in that room I was the expert. Because these salespeople, they didn't know anything about it. So I was their expert. So in my world, nothing could go wrong. I couldn't fail. So I was outside of my comfort zone, but I was 100% safe. Nothing could go wrong. So I was doing that for 4 hours, coming home, and then I started talking with this manager for education at the company, and he said, maybe we should have an agile training here. I think that's good. Maybe you should run it. And maybe I should. And then we started talking about that and said, do you have a name for it? And there was a phrase coming to my mind I heard several years ago from an angry French development manager. And he was yelling to me, I hate Agile. So I thought, let's call it I hate Agile. And I did. And all of a sudden I was sitting here at the Foo Café and running I hate Edgar as a presentation. And then it just took off. And I've been doing it for several companies, meeting a lot of great people, talking about working an agile way of working, using an agile way of thinking, and doing that. One of the companies I visited, there was a real nice guy. He was really talented, and he said, hey Roger, I really like what you're talking about, and I want to continue talking to you about these things. And that guy sits next to me this evening.
Thanks.
So,
And somewhere practical, we're not going to come back after pizza for a Q&A, so we will have the talk and the Q&A together.
yes.
Yes, so feel free to ask questions during the talk. Yeah.
Exactly. You're welcome to do that.
So my point of the story is actually that being outside the comfort zone is one part of being safe. And that's something we need to take quite often, stepping outside. But we need to be safe. And comfort and safe is not the same thing. They are two different things. Like you go into the gym, and the personal trainer is actually forcing you to do this exercise so you can grow your muscles. You're feeling really uncomfortable, but you're still safe. Because to be able to grow, you need to be outside. A lot of people talk about this zone as the panic zone. Now I'm leaving my comfort zone, going to the panic zone. But in my world, it's more of a magic zone actually, because it's where the magic happens, and you need to go there, and you need to push yourself going there. And that's what we will look at in the second picture that will come up in any second.
Wait for it.
This one. So,
Am I in the way?
I think it's okay, right? You can see? We have 4 pictures. If we start with this one, the guy at the couch. This represents the area where we have actually not about safety. We have no one pushing us. No one is challenging us for anything. We're coming to work, but our hearts and minds are somewhere else. We just go there and we do the stuff, and we go home, and it means nothing. So this guy represents that area. Now if we take that workplace and we start saying, okay, to be successful, you need to set goals. So now we're setting goals. Then we end up in this picture over here on the top left corner. All of a sudden, we have a push for pressure, and we need to do things, but we have no safety. So all of a sudden we get anxious and we get worried, and we don't really know how to handle the stuff. This is recipe for disaster going in there. And sadly we see that a lot, that we want to push and we set goals and we need to be successful, and we just lose this safe part of it. So if we go to the picture to the right here, bottom right, this is the comfort zone. This is where we come into work. We really enjoy it. How's work? It's great. Love my colleagues. Really nice. Love going there. But no one is challenging us for doing anything. We don't get pushed to do anything outside of our comfort zone. We just come there, and it's really nice. And we're all sitting on that bench, but no one is out there on the field and taking the ball.
Happy but boring.
Happy but boring. Exactly. So where we're aiming for is, of course, for the children, ski. Skiing downhill is extremely dangerous. People can die doing that. It's really dangerous. And still we are teaching our kids to do that, and just force them, onto that. and they learn really quick, and they do it together. And they're in the learning zone and feeling safe, but still outside of the.
I'm sorry, but you need to increase the volume. Like that.
So now it's better. We don't have to repeat everything, but we just continue. So this picture is something we will leave here at night. We'll have it. Well, I think the topics we will talk about will fit into any one of these boxes. And I think we all recognize ourselves in these different areas. We have probably been there sometime, and we wanted to move out of it or move into it and so on. So we will have this picture open.
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea. I mean, what we're talking about here is basically a pretty vast and complex subject, or many subjects probably. But I'm sometimes amazed how this, like, illustration or 4 illustrations gives a pretty complete image of where you can actually map yourself as a team, where you are, and you can use it as a tool to understand maybe where you want to go. You can use it to understand what you would like to push a little bit. I think one pretty interesting thing to begin with is to ask yourself a question about, like, are we dealing with some kind of uncertainty in our workplace? Maybe we can do like this, hands up, anyone who is not dealing with any kind of uncertainty in their workplace. As expected, almost a rhetorical question. I think everybody encounters uncertainty at some point. I'm referring a little bit to a Harvard professor called Amy Edmondson, I think that's her last name, who coined a thing called psychological safety. And she basically says like this, that if you don't have any uncertainty, psychological safety is not that important. And I guess that's right. But anyway, it kind of tells you also, okay, probably, regardless of what we're doing, there is supposed to be some kind of uncertainty ahead. Maybe a question that would generate some more interaction. Would you say, if we're looking at this top left image, anyone who has been in this zone at some point, doesn't have to be right now in your workplace, anyone who has found themselves being in that position, are you aware in that case? Raise your hand. Very cool. I think that's both a bit expected and also a bit unexpected, because I think the unexpected part is that there is some kind of silence around this area as well, because it's not so easy to, admit that you're in this anxiety zone, because it's not so nice being anxious, and probably you have a manager focusing a lot on output, focusing a lot on execution, not so much on you. Not so much on you as a employee or a human being, because you have needs as a team member, as a human being as well. Anybody wants to share any situation where you can put an example about being in this zone? Or maybe if you have any examples. I'll give the question to you first.
Trying to wrap my head around that, because most of the time comfortability is your safe area. So how is it that when you step out from it you're still safe? Because most of the time I think you have anxiety, you become nervous, there's just a whole lot of uncertainty to it, as opposed to being safe, because it's basically a new environment or a new challenge or whatsoever. So I'm just interested how you connected or how you came up with that.
That's a really good question. I would say the key to this question is actually working with people and having people around you that you trust. and the managers that we trust, and supporting in every case. And that's also about the picture on to the top right here, that we learning together and doing these things together. And even though I'm sitting here by myself sometimes speaking, I know I have a lot of people around me that's supporting me and covering for me, and I have also run the presentation several times to my colleagues, and they have criticized me and got me feedback and so on. So that is the safety for me, at least. I have people around me that can actually support me and lead me, and if I need to be led.
I think it's very good you raised the question, because I was also wondering. And what does it then make you to be outside of your comfort zone if you now feel the safety? Why are you not still in the comfort zone?
Well, I'm going into the comfort zone because that area becomes my new comfort zone.
Exactly.
Right. But doing that, raising my hand and say, yeah, I can do it. But that's uncertain. But when I start going that path, I notice that, yeah, I'm pretty safe here because I can't really fail. But taking the steps, that's the most important thing. So of course I'm going into a new area, and that's become my new comfort zone. On the path to that area, I need to feel safe still.
So it boils down to support.
I would say so. Learning together, and that's also something we can look at the learning area, that we very often say that, okay, we need learnings now, and we give you 2 hours a week to learn. And you start thinking, oh, maybe I can do that class, or do a course, I can read that book, I can look at that YouTube movie or film that I see, I can learn something for myself. But what we should actually be focusing on is how can we have a team-based learning. So we don't only learn the what, but we also learn the how. Because we need to practice to work together at every time. So the learnings we do at our offices also, learning together. Instead of me reading one book, let's gather several people and read that book together. So we can collaborate in the learnings. And I can find those people that can support me and getting on with it.
If we could talk a little bit more on the upper left picture, but because I think we all have been in those organization goal-oriented, hard goals. So when you arrive to a new team or a new assignment, you see this team very goal-oriented. In your perspective, what do you do in your profession when we have seen this? Oh, this team is goal-oriented, very hard. There's a whip. So how do you move that team to the kids?
That's a really good question. I can comment it a little bit at least, and please fill in afterwards, of course. I'm in my experience, it's not really unusual, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to have pretty high alignment in the beginning, because this chart we're seeing, these dimensions, I think that the psychological safety, that is about feeling, safe to speak out and taking risks, be vulnerable. And the other dimension is about, could be alignment, could be motivation. It's, yeah, basically different words for kind of same things in the same area. Anyway, I think a newly assembled team probably desires a lot of alignment, but I think it's really easy for a team leader, could be a product manager, could be a manager, some kind of stakeholder maybe, to push a little too hard on the gas, because there is someone up there to please and there is someone in the team to please, and it's so difficult to keep the balance. I think the recipe for success is to talk about how can we as a team focus on an outcome rather than the actual output. Because when you talk a lot about producing and executing, you're a lot about outputs. We really need to do this thing, maybe because there is an opinion about it. But how can we actually know that it produces some kind of value that we actually want to have and keep in the long run? So start a discussion about outcome, understand a little bit about balancing output and the actual influence or I think autonomy, it's a bit difficult word, but maybe local decision making is more better to align together. Also, I mean, I relate a little bit in the early phase of team assembling. Also, fresh, everybody has been staring into their screens for like 1.5 years now. Creates a bit of, I think, uncertainty for assembling a team. So don't be afraid of suggesting a team retrospective or a kind of how to do things, if it's possible to do it IRL. I have had the possibility to do that just recently because, well, now we are allowed to meet again, and I think I've seen a lot of like bottlenecks popping up because we can meet, we can get that team feeling, and yeah, that's a perspective.
I would say the question is like, how do you create trust? So when you enter a new assignment, to consultant, or going to new work, and you face this team, so how do you build trust? How do you make people trust the team, and how do you make the team trust others? So I think that's the question. To me, is to be completely honest from start. And for any question I say, when can a team deliver? When can you do this? When can you do this? And my honest answer is, I don't know. And I think it can be really tough saying that, but I really have to say, because I don't really know. I can't say it, because I don't have anything backing up. If I should just throw myself out there and say, 2 weeks, what does it mean? Nothing. So the honest answer is just, I don't know, but I will find out. And there are different ways of doing that, of course. To say collaborate and finding out who are the stakeholders here, who do we need to please, how do we need to collaborate. And also just look into how do we measure this? How do we see that we have a stable throughput from this? Because that's also one way of building trust. When can you be done with this? Well, yesterday's weather was tomorrow's weather. Take a look what you've done 2-3 months before, and look into that, what you can do in the coming weeks, coming months. And that will create trust also. If you're doing that for a long time, people will start trusting you. But it also starts with saying, I don't know, and be honest then. And I think that's really a good advice also for using the phrase. And don't, if you're a manager, you don't have all the answers. You really don't. If you think you have all the answers, you should probably quit. Because you will be wrong at some point. So you don't have all the answers, and saying, I don't know, it's a really good thing. Because you create an area for others to stand up also, with their expertise that they have about, and to find out a solution and innovate. And so I think that's but it's a tough way.
And if you mix a crazy stakeholder into the math,
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, there are some crazy stakeholders. And you're going into the reality actually, and discuss really with them, and what is what you really want. Because there's a difference between A and B, and we need to understand it. And don't just listen into the yelling or to the tough words. Actually discuss and do it over and over again. Because you need to understand. You need to understand, is it actually B or is it A? What happens if we don't deliver A and B? What would happen then? Consequence. What we would do then? And just build that relationship. Because actually no one knows. So you need to start talking about it. You need to start experimenting about it. Of course, it's not about being in relationships with these people.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking when you're saying that we all have different agendas, and so do the crazy stakeholder too. So maybe that crazy stakeholder just wants to do a good job, and his definition of what it is to do a good job is doing these kind of things. So if we can figure what people actually have as a real need as individuals, I'm thinking we can also break through that difficulty of like, is it A or B? It's actually not A or B, it's me.
Exactly. Yeah. And probably he needs also to be safe.
Yeah.
And want to be safe. So discuss, understand, big relationship there.
What do you say, Anders? Crazy stakeholders.
I mean, my own perspective is that, I mean, alignment, I think, should come from like a product manager leading a team towards getting closer to the goals. I mean, there is nothing wrong about that, and that's probably how it looks in many workplaces. That could be the engineering part or the design part. Those are like maybe slowing things down a bit, saying, okay, we need to build this properly. We can't just put our foot on the gas. And in that situation, I have very good experience from myself being a Scrum Master and being that kind of glue layer, because saying to an engineer in a position where, I mean, output is so highly valued, I mean, I think actually many teams in this zone, they are in an environment, in a workplace, where praise is pretty common, because you praise the actual output, but you forget about how are the people actually feeling about it. And what I'm trying to get to here is that the role as a Scrum Master or as an Agile coach, I think it's really important to be that kind of glue layer and help the team, help the individual team members to build that trust, not only with the PM, product manager, but also with the stakeholders. So I mean, I find myself often in these kind of discussions where I build trust together with both parts, and I'm kind of, can I say Switzerland? Not really saying that I want you to win or I want you to win. I want us to win. And I think it's pretty important to have, I mean, both dimensions here, and saying that alignment and autonomy shouldn't like pull in opposite directions. They should be cooperating, just as psychological safety and like motivation. And so my take is a little bit, I mean, push yourself. If you're a Scrum Master, if you're an Agile coach, or if you have that kind of servant leadership, or build a partnership with your leaders. I mean, they need you, because I think that's in many cases key to build that trust, instead of just throwing it out there. You need to trust each other. Okay, how are we going to do that? I think for me that's a big challenge, and what makes my job really, really fun and exciting, and pushes me towards a new comfort zone, just as you mentioning, Roger.
My question. Oh, sorry.
The box.
I was actually scared to ask a question. I completely forgot. But I'm ready, because I was thinking, I'm not going to ask a question if I need to. I don't have a good bollsinne. I don't know what that's called in English. But my question relates a little bit to what you said, that it's not enough to just say we need to build trust. We need to actively do things. And sometimes I wonder around psychological safety and how I can spread that feeling. And when I mean spread, so I work as an Agile coach, and I try to have this dialogue a lot. So you would come to me, let's say that you're going to facilitate something, and you're super worried because you're not really facilitating that often, you're a developer. And then I have this feeling sometimes that I really try to resonate and talk about it, kind of, that remember that you're doing this for the first time, and we'll learn a lot, we can co-facilitate, and these sort of things, and really try to get into this psychological safe environment by talking about it. And I can sense that this other person also resonates, maybe intellectually, but I still have this feeling afterwards that he or she is maybe not having that feeling, really. So it's something about talking versus actually being able to kind of spread that to the persons that you're coaching or talking to, so that they actually get the feeling and not just, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Have you tried to make it a small lecture, just between you and the developer? Practice.
No, I haven't tried that. That's actually a good idea.
So then we can break it down and make a small session, and that's my thought about when you talk about it. But then you have an opportunity to actually try these things and give feedback also just between you two. I did that a lot actually when I started. I asked my colleague, hey, do you have an hour? No, I have half an hour. Yeah, okay, half an hour then. And the next time, do you have 1 hour? Yeah, I have 1 hour. No. And I was driving this facilitation way, and just talk about it and experimenting and saying, the feedback. I still remember the feedback I got from those sessions, and I still think about it when I do the exercises, when I facilitate and other things. So it's a good thing to just between you and me, let's try it. Run it to me. Nothing can happen. You're completely safe here.
That's actually a really good idea. I haven't considered that. I usually prepare with them, but I just haven't done a run through kind of.
Yeah.
But it's actually a nice simulation.
Yeah.
And maybe also fun to just make it a little bit light and let's try it out together kind of
Yeah, and
thing.
it's a little bit real because
Mm.
they have to perform in their role there. But nothing happens if something goes wrong. They can repeat again, or they can remove stuff, and they can.
Thanks.
Instant
Good
thoughts.
advice.
When you talk
Very,
about that.
very good advice, I think. I like one-to-ones. Do you think it's difficult to, like, I mean, give examples of when it's valid to have high psychological safety? Because I hear you say you resonate well with the people you discuss it with. I mean, if you discuss it in a group, do you think it's difficult to get feedback in the actual group about, okay, I think we need to work on psychological safety because this and this, or
I think it depends what group it is, and we are just in the middle of an agile transformation at my workplace, and so a lot of things are new. People are feeling a little bit insecure, and sometimes I just have this feeling that even if we talk about, let's not be scared of failing. We learn, we experiment. So one thing is that you talk about them, but then sometimes you can sense that people are maybe not completely feeling it, even if they are saying it. Yeah, guys, let's experiment, and then you can still sense that people are kind of scared. So it's something with words and reality, kind of. I can sense a little bit of a difference there sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was curious if you guys had any thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Actually making it come alive, right? So not just sitting and talking about it, but having a feeling that, wow, this other person actually went out from here feeling more safe. And I could sense that as well.
Yeah, I second what Roger said, because I mean, in a one-to-one situation, I think it's you feel more, I mean, safe in taking risks together only with you, I guess. I mean, I think that's a really good start. And also, I have good experience of showing something similar to this, just like not going too like hands dirty into deep psychology, but I mean looking at team psychology in essence, and I think most teams can relate to these because they're pretty big chunks with big varieties of I mean the parameters. I mean, we're in the learning zone, or we're in the apathy zone, or we're in the anxiety zone. It shouldn't be too hard to identify those. So I have good experience from, well, pretty briefly though, but showing this as a guide.
But if you meet up a team who is scared, and you can feel that they are afraid, so what do you do then? The team, not the individual, the team.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I will stop talking with one-on-one. So something going on here, and you feel it, but you don't see it. Okay. So I always start with one-on-ones. I always do that. But I need to build trust with each person, and even though I feel it in the team, I really need to. Maybe it's one person that creates that word, and that person don't know it. Could be that guy, or is it someone external outside? But one-on-one, and I think that's it's difficult to take it on the whole team, because maybe no one is saying it, because no one dares to say it. And we don't get anywhere. You see the problem when it comes to
Talk.
I think talk, and then have a coffee, take the lunch, find the moments, and just talk.
And I think there is always, I'm going to let you in, sorry. There is always an individual perspective and a team perspective. And I think it's so important to respect the individual perspective, because, I mean, different people have different känselspröt. And it's feeling sticks. Thanks, you really helped me out there. Anyway, and I think doing it as Roger just suggested, excellent way of understanding at least, then taking it to the team perspective, making everyone understand that respect each other for being different. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to be a bit fearless, but I used to work at Malmö University as a teacher, and in that setting, should I talk like this? Okay. In that setting, we have a teacher or somebody employed at the university, and it's kind of a safe environment. On the other side, you have the students, and they can get very angry if something doesn't go right within a class or course, for instance. Course might be mostly. So, and you're talking a lot of taking people on the side, talking them one-to-one, but when you have a course with 90 students, you need to, it is a team, because the teacher is not like the expert telling everybody. You learn together in a way, you construct the knowledge together. So, how to phrase this into the question? What's your comment about this? Do you understand what I mean, so to speak?
It's a bigger team, bigger group.
Yeah, and we can't just have this one-to-one conversation.
There's no time for you to talk with 90 people one-on-one. Then the lecture's over.
Yes.
So how do you get attention? How do you get everyone's eyes on you as a teacher? I think you mentioned something here, that we learn it together. I think that's also the teacher's responsibility to make that clear from start. This is my expectations on you. I'm talking about expectations, really early. What is your expectations from this course? We do it together. But then it's easier to take those discussions when we do it together and constantly talking about doing things together. Finding things that are interesting just to get their attention. I'm just referring to when I met a school class, and they were like 50 or 60 something like that. And I was just talking with them for half an hour about Agile. You know, they were like 15 years or something. What they know about Agile? Yeah, pretty much actually. But they don't call it Agile. But you know, so I had actually prepared and put up examples. I talked with students and understand, what are you doing now? How is your life? What are you doing? And we have a 100 party. Or what's that? Well, we have 100 days to our graduation. Okay, then I know. So I did that and just build a backlog for them. And so this is your life. You're coming home, you need to do your homework, you need to go out with the dog, otherwise consequence, you know. And you have this 100 party you need to plan and all things. And just meeting them where they were. Just to make sure that we are a team here and I'm on your level. I don't know if I'm going too way off the question now.
But I could fill in, perhaps, if you don't mind. If you go to your work, your assignment, and this department or unit, there are 100 people. They're not divided, there are 100 people. What should you do to form this 100 people? Do you understand the question?
I guess so. I work with smaller teams, though.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
It's a white paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should.
Yeah.
Because there may be groups that are pursued, yeah?
And that's what I was thinking. Is it really a team or is it a group?
Exactly. What is a team? How can we define a team? To me, a team is a group of people that have a common goal, and to reach that goal, they need each other. Not only have a goal, they need each other to reach that goal. So maybe we should just divide that group into smaller teams based on what we are aiming for. Not based on how people would like to work. That would never be good. But maybe we should divide it in what are we aiming for here? What are we trying to accomplish? Also a really good exercise, just talking about what are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to aim for? What is success for us? And write it down, state it, so we know. Now we are being successful because we are talking about it. Yep.
Good one.
I guess, again, I wonder the teams that you have experience with that have a high psychological safety or strong, I'm not sure what to write, but and that are fearless. What characteristics do they have? How do you recognize that they have this trust and psychological safety and that they are fearless? What makes you think that they are that when you observe them or when you're with them?
Great question. I think, like, looking a little bit about what we call the different zones, the learning zone or the achievement zone, the kids are learning to ski. I think one, for me, pretty clear property of a team with high psychological safety and in combination with high performance as well, is a team that really respects this adopt and inspect cycle about learning from what we do and not really just getting stuck in one way to do things, because maybe surroundings are changing, maybe things are changing around you and you're susceptible to change, and you're able to learn from those things and you're allowed to learn from those things. I mean, in like experiment-friendly environment, I think I could call it, is where the way I see it, at least, where you are allowed to, like, if someone says like, okay, well, let's do it like this. Well, I think we should do it like this, says another. And then the third one, let's try both and compare. If we have that kind of mindset, I think that's really, for me, significant of being in that high zone.
I think if you're in a comfort zone, you will notice when you enter a room. That's the easy answer. You will notice in the room, in the dynamics, in the atmosphere in the room. We have high comfort. That's the easy answer to that one. In the learning zone, I would say like more that we have those discussions. That we are always open to experiment and say, let's try it for 2 weeks. And then elaborate. Let's try it. And agree on that. And then, okay, this talent didn't work at all. Oh, no, why didn't it work? Oh, because, okay. Having that constantly focusing on changes and improvements that we want to improve. Constantly. But we always are in an experiment, but we always want to go further in an experiment. I think that's I've noticed in the discussions.
Exactly. I mean, just an example, I've seen this going on in very different, I mean, sort of relations. I mean, there could be a really tight kind of core group, knowing each other really, really well, maybe working together for ages. And if you know each other really well, maybe you don't even have to speak with each other. You just like kind of transfer thoughts or whatever. A bit exaggerated there, but anyway, you get the point. That is one way of reaching that. And if you're not in that kind of nirvana state, I have seen also this kind of behavior when you go into the room and you can like question things without being like, okay, why are you questioning my work? It's like, good point. I really like you wondering about this. I mean, I love you being curious about this. So I mean, the attitude about it. I think the attitude is super important when you're pretty new in a team. And that attitude, I think, is really modeled and managed by a leader. And of course, in different workplaces, leadership looks different. But this is, I think, a vital component in leadership to actually model that kind of behavior.
I would like to compare a team to my family, actually, because how do I notice that my family has a high security, high safety? I have 2 kids. They are 7 and 9. They are constantly learning, and I'm trying to keep up. So I'm always behind them. But I know that they will learn, and they're driving that. And if I transfer that mindset, how am I reacting in my family? How am I supporting my kids? How am I supporting my wife? How is my wife supporting me? And how am I doing that at work? We don't have to be, that tight work compared to family, but we still have the relationships and the discussions, and we want to go for holiday, where we're going. We have those discussions at home, and we have a similar discussion at work, and we treat them, should be able to treat them in the same way.
And in those groups, I know because we have talked about it a lot, children leadership and workplace leadership, your children are different. There are different personalities. So you treat them differently. Yeah. And I think you need to do that in work as well. People are different.
And sadly, we notice that too late, I would say. So when we do the interview on a new person, we request them then to send in the resume, and we meet them, we sit there with the resume and say, okay, so tell me about this work here, what you did 3 years ago. And we're trying to remember and pick up the big pieces here that we really want to tell you. Instead of doing that, let's just talk about what is important to you as a person. Write it down on one page. What is important to you? What does other people appreciate about you? What are your talents that I will notice in a couple of weeks here when we start working together? Tell me about those. How do you think good support look like at a workplace? How can I as a leader support you when you start working? What kind of support? What is good support for you? Those questions I think is much more important than, oh, you have Java for 4 years, we're looking for one for 5 years now. I think you can learn that. That's no problem. But talking about what is good support and what is your talents, what is people appreciate about you, those are the important stuff. Take it already when you meet first time. Don't wait until you get tired, get in there and those stuff. Take it as soon as possible so you really learn this person.
Yeah, good point. I think you mentioned supportive really early, and I think that's a key component of being in there, the achievement zone, being supportive within the team and also getting that support from leadership.
I just want to find out, in terms of comfort, yes, you're in a comfort zone and you still want growth, but a lot of us enjoy comfort zone, even though we do want growth. So I want to find out from you guys, since you're in the field and you seem quite experienced, like what are the tools do you instill to people that to take that transition from, getting out of the comfort zone and heading towards, growth? Because yes, you can speak about, having conversations, but I think I would assume that, it's all about the mindset. Because when you're in a comfort zone, you enjoy that space, you love it, you don't want anything to distract. So to get out of that, it pretty much is hard. You can see it when you go to gym, for instance, trying to lose weight or gain muscles or whatsoever. It takes time, and some people, within 3 months, 6 months, they just give up. So what are the tools would you say are quite important to help a person to transition, make that transition from comfort zone to growth space?
I would say, first of all, it's about changes. To realize that a change is not a losing weight program we enter here. We shouldn't just lose weight and then we're done. This is something we're changing in our way of living. So in this TV program, Biggest Loser, right? People going in there, they're trying to lose a lot of weight in that program. And the winner is the one that has lost the most weight, I think, in percentage or something like that. They calculate that, and that's the winner. I would say the winner is not the person winning the program. The winner is then understanding that this is a mindset shift. This is a change I have to live with now. With the things I start doing, eating better, moving better, and more often, those are the things I continue to do. So that's the change. That's the first thing. But we understand this is a change to do it. It's not a temporary thing. It's not something we just do for 3 weeks and then we go out of it. It's a change. We're talking about change. But then also it's about challenging people. And you can't move from this picture to this picture at one step. You have to try it out, challenge one time and see, okay, what happens if I do like this? Now I challenge you. I don't want to do the same thing as you did yesterday. I want you to do something different now. And we try that. and then evaluate, and we get feedback, and we ask, how did it feel? And then we do it again, and again, and again, and again. And that's what you do with teams also. I mean, going from here to here is not almost impossible. You're always going through this stage or through this stage. So you're going from left to right here, they get into comfort zone. And people are feeling really comfortable. Comfort over courage, you might say. But then you have to push them into this one. How can we learn more? How can we evaluate more? Example, we're doing a delivery, a software delivery, and the architect is on 2 weeks vacation. I need the architect's review to this. I can't release it. What will happen if you release it? No, I can't release it. I have to wait for architect. But it's 2 weeks, and we can't wait. What will happen if you release it? Who will die? What will happen? And challenge constantly for this. And don't sit down and wait. What is the consequence? Just do it. And talk about the consequence. So we're still feeling safe doing it. But try it. And then try it again. And try it again. And try it again. And continue with that. And do it more and more. All of a sudden, people think, oh, we have a constantly focus on changing. Yes, we do. Because we are, we're taking the steps faster and faster, and we're looking into changes more often. But we need to change in order to improve. So I would say, try it once. And try to make it safe. Tell people with you, make it safe. And challenge.
And Roger, if you push someone to this release, for example, and will you tell us a little bit more what you do when you push it, and if it goes wrong? As a leader, yeah, because you need to build safety there as well.
Exactly. So talk about what happens. First of all, before doing it, talk about the consequence. What can go wrong? But if I do it, this might happen. Okay, how do we do that? So you're making a plan for things going wrong. And the military is doing that all the time. They're always focusing on what if, and I have a plan for that. But we always think that we will succeed first attempt. So we don't do that plan, we just go for it. So do the plan and talk about it. This will happen. If this fails, we do like this. You talk to that person, you do that. You push that button, you do that. Next step, next step, next step. We have a plan for when we fail. And then it's a little bit more safe to fail. We don't, yeah.
And if it's failing.
Yeah.
The launch failing.
Yeah.
What do you do as a leader?
Well, we want to go up to that corner, right? So we have to learn.
Yeah.
If we haven't learned anything from an experiment, it's a bad experiment.
I think maybe acknowledge change might be messy. I was about to steal a little bit from one of my favorite YouTube clips. It's called "I Hate Agile." Maybe you've seen it. And it goes something like this: change, but find out why first. And I think this is kind of relevant in this context because, I mean, if you try and get out in your kind of narrow comfort zone, if I understand your question right, and you want to broaden that comfort zone into something that, okay, I feel this is heading in a direction that is my personal development. I want to go there. Maybe you need a little push, but I think equally important is to know the reason why. And it might be like this. Pretty good example, hopefully. If you're in an end-to-end team, I mean, basically, the team responsibility is full stack. You need to deliver full user experience, but you also need a lot of, brains in the game to implement that all the way down to the bare steel. Then you probably need to have some kind of cross-functional thinking. And I have been working with a lot of engineers, designers, product managers that are like, oh, come on, okay, I know Agile favors cross-functional, but it's just such a mess. We just have to do things, talk about things, just let me focus, let me do my work. But I think if you're trying to implement cross-functional where it doesn't make sense, where you don't have a good why, then it will probably fail. So where I'm getting at is, if you're working in a component team, if you have a bunch of like, low-level back-end engineers, why should you go cross-functional? But if you have like end-to-end responsibility, if you're working with user experience, maybe you want to push yourself as being in that silo, being in that more narrow zone, only understanding your front-end code. Maybe I need to understand what's around there, and I can be a more sort of complete team member, pushing myself into a comfort zone where I actually want to be, to do my job better and to move towards a direction where it might favor both myself and my surroundings at a later point. Thanks for the movie clip. It really helped me out here.
If you could give 3 topics each on, so this is very important when you need to build trust, a guideline for the audience. What would you say?
Maybe you'll steal mine. Should I go first?
You can go first.
We can go. I can take one. You can take one.
Okay, I
So.
can steal yours in a nice way.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start by stealing yours because I love one-to-ones. We already mentioned it, but I mean, why not repeat great stuff? I mean, building trust. I think it's about relations, building relations. Do one-to-ones. When I started at GetAccept, I didn't really have any managerial duties. I think there is some kind of conception that one-to-one is manager to employee kind of relation building stuff. Why not build relations with anyone in a one-to-one? I think it was an amazing tool. Online, sitting there, I think I got to know like, I don't know, 50 people at my company in a pretty short while by doing this. And it doesn't have to be within the team. So one-to-ones. That's probably one, first, second, and third place. But I'll try to figure out something more.
Maybe you can mention when you're not promoting one-to-one of what would you actually talk about. You sit there in front of the screen, you meet a person that you never met, you don't feel that psychological safety. So how do you actually do it? How do you overcome that, and what could you ask or talk to that person about?
Fantastic question, actually. I think personally, I try to be, I mean, a bit, well, personal. Start by sharing something about me. I usually ask, maybe not the first thing, but what are your expectations on me as a Scrum Master? Because that's a pretty broad role. I mean, you can look it up on the internet saying that, okay, you should make the team do whatever they do within the given circumstances, but it's so much more than that. So talk about expectations, I think. That's a good thing to do. Yeah. You go next, Logo.
Well, the way I build trust is usually by using measurements. And I've probably been talking about that a lot, so maybe we're bored on that. But I'm using measurements a lot to just build trust because it's numbers, and we all know numbers. And if we can connect it to facts, we can use it. So I usually often measure throughput, measure cycle times, and so on. And I do it over a long time. Now, this story is about when it goes wrong, because this is a great tool. When you collect a lot of data, a lot of knowledge from how you work, how long time does it take to release a sort of thing, or dividing the work into small, medium, large, and how long time does it take to deliver a medium one, and so on. And you do that over time, and you see that the curve is flattened out, so it don't go up and down, it's just flattened out. So you know this is stable team. Then you build trust, because then you can be predictable. Then you can say, over the past 3 months, we are actually delivering in this pace. So we probably, since we don't change the team, we don't do any changes, we will probably continue in that pace for the coming 3 months. And then we can be predictable. And then people start trusting us. And what happens then is that we don't get the questions, when are you done? We get simply business discussions. I want to be in your list for the next release. because we have the line. We know that this is the line. Above it, we will be good. Probably. And below it, we will not. And creating that environment is really important, to me at least. Now,
And that will stop the crazy stakeholder as well, probably.
it will, because you can have a business discussion rather than a discussion on this car. So, one problem is when this tool ends up in the wrong hands, it goes wrong. So, this team I was trying this with, they were doing really good, and they had a really good flow, and people were trusting them. And then we had a reputation of being a team that was delivering on time, because we could plan according to this. Of course, upper management wanted to know what you're doing, because it sounds good. Maybe we can copy it to other teams. So we presented it to upper management. And I think it took almost, it even took a week before we got a message back from upper management saying, you need to increase your throughput with 20%. And this team was just in shock. They have done all they could to just keep a steady pace and be a trusted team. And all of a sudden they get, you need to increase 20%. So why? Well, when I compare your numbers to other teams in the organization, and you're the lowest, so you need to increase. But we're only 5 people and they are 10. You can't compare. It's not impossible. It's not possible to compare those numbers. So all of a sudden, this great tool that they had for building trust, they turned against them as a weapon. And pointing at them and say, 20%. And they were feeling in shock. So when you do these things with a team, make sure it's a team tool. It's not a management tool. It's a team tool. Built by the team, for the team. Always. Otherwise, because what happened there was, of course, this team started feeling really insecure. What happened here? All of a sudden we thought we were doing good, and now we're being pushed into something else. They were not feeling safe at that point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we keeping on with
one more.
One more.
each.
I think okay. Quick. I can do actually 3 total. Quick one. I think curiosity. I mean, yeah, just be a role model for curiosity. I think anyone can be that. So that's a quick one. But also, I think worth to mention, and this is, I suppose, more directed to management and leadership. That I mean, I would say most of us who are working in companies, the company is proud of what they're doing. They're saying we're really great at this. We know our domain. We're like, yeah, we're gonna be the greatest company in the world within this domain. But I mean, within that context, within that saying, I think there is also room for saying that I don't really know the exact solution that is best for the customer in this case, but I have a pretty good idea. So we can try it out a bit, experiment, because that, I think, allows for the team members and the people working together with that leader to take place and feeling trust being given to them about, okay, let's try it out. Maybe we have a similar idea or a completely different idea. We can try them out, compare them. So I do think it's possible to combine those two statements about being really like proud and great at what we're doing, but also admitting that you don't know it all. I think that's important. And I think that's a bit about trusting, actually.
I have a final one. In about 2 weeks, if you live in Sweden, the restrictions is probably over. So you can go back to work. What happens then? Do you feel safe staying at home and working? Or do you feel more safe at work? And what is your company deciding? Are you deciding going back 100%? What happens to safety then? Have we created any safety at our homes that we lose going back 100%? Or what will happen? Or are we just 100% safe at work, at the office? We want to go there. But we're having hybrid model that you can sit home sometimes and office sometimes. Take the discussion at your workplaces and discuss about safety and what will happen with safety when you come back. after this pandemic? And what will happen if the company decides, now we will continue working from home? This is a new way of working. Yeah, but I want to go to the coffee machine and chat. That's my safety. What will happen? Discuss about safety at the workplaces and what will happen with it when we change now again. Because 1.5 years ago we were forced to change. Now we are not forced to change, but we will change because we have the opportunity. So what will happen with safety then?
Thank you very much. I think we're done, and we will be back, I think, someday. Yes. Applause for Roger and Anders.
Thanks a lot. You've been a great audience, great questions.
Tough question, but good question.
Hur fungerar det sen, Carina?
Yeah, please stay with us. Let's have some pizza.